we want to go in and we want to make sure that we're giving them value. And what's valuable to us is not necessarily valuable to them. So if we don't find out what's valuable to them, we're not really giving them any sort of value. And we just kind of lump ourselves in with a bunch of other agents. Because a lot of agents, when they go in on a presentation, they just ramble on. They talk about what they think is important without really finding out from the person what's important to them. One is conversational, and the other one is you're just dictating to them. You see that?
Good morning, Marco.
Yes.
It's Jennifer. Could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Jen. What's going on?
Okay.
Good morning.
I just saved a little bird. I hope he lives. But I had a situation. Can I speak about that?
Mm-hmm.
No matter what I said, answered all their objections. They were committed. We want to interview 2 other agents. I said, you know what? Then you really should. I want you to. But please promise me that before you make any decisions, you'll call me. We'll have another conversation. And the second thing I want you to do is, here's my resume. Here's a copy of my reviews. If you don't have reviews right now, you could use company reviews.
Sure.
Make sure you get this from every agent you're going to interview. And I will tell you, 99.9% of real estate agents do not come with their resume, nor do they come with their reviews. And that sealed the deal.
Okay, that sealed the deal right then and there, or that sealed the deal that you got the call back?
I got the call back. I followed up with them. I said, thank you very much, blah, 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 blah. And they called me the next day. I don't know whether or not they interviewed the other 2 people, but they said, could you please come back? We'd like to sign with you.
Okay. Well, I got to tell you, Jen, that doesn't work for me. If I don't get it when I'm there, chances are I'm not going to get it. And everything that the NAR tells you and all the statistics tell you, if you walk out, chances are you're not going to get it.
100%. But these people, I didn't want to, they were sort of getting a little like, okay, I had enough. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I just felt.
You read the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah, you read the situation. You made a business decision at that point. So I don't know, well, obviously it turned out favorable, but I will tell you from personal experience and from knowing other agents the way I know them, most of them, if they walk away, they're not getting the second chance. And one of the biggest reasons is because they lump us all in the same category. All real estate agents are the same, right? We get a lot of that. Okay, so I want to talk about being customer-centric, right? And part of being customer-centric is really listening to the person. In order to listen to the person, you have to be the one asking the questions. If you're the one talking, you're not asking questions. And if you're not asking questions, you're not getting down to what it is that you need to get down to. You're not getting the information that you need. So it's not about you talking at them. It's about you asking good questions, right? So you want to ask them what their expectations are. You want to make sure that they understand that they come first. I find for new agents, if you're going on a presentation, if you understand all the qualities of an agency disclosure and you go by the acronym OLCAR, right? And you tell them exactly what your job is and what your purpose is and how you're going to represent them and how you're not going to do anything to jeopardize their position in the sale of their own property, or how you're going to enhance the value of them as a buyer in the eyes of the seller, that you're going to make them the strongest buyer possible. They kind of get an idea that this is just not signed here, that there's actually something else behind it. And I think the agency disclosure and a lot of the paperwork spells that out very easily. Keisha, do you find that to be the fact?
I'm sorry.
Do you find that to be the fact? Do you find that the paperwork helps you? Knowing the paperwork and everything that we promised them and how our agreements work and knowing our liability and the fact that we're fiduciaries, do you think that knowing that stuff and communicating it effectively, you think that helps in getting people signed up?
A whole lot, Marco. I mean, that just shows that you have the knowledge of what you do. If you don't know the forms, then it's like you're climbing a mountain without a rope.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. No, it's so true. And I see, you know, there's an expression that says the devil is in the details. But if you become more detail oriented and you really understand your paperwork beyond the shadow of a doubt, then it's going to cause so much less explaining. You're going to be able to explain it to them in a better way. And I would say this is something that really, the only way you get it is by practicing it. So I would heavily suggest go on DocuSign, find the forms. All our forms are there, or you can go on Instinet. Look at the forms, look at the buyer contract, look at the seller contract, look at residential listing, MLS.
If I could just add one more thing to that.
Sure.
Knowing the paperwork builds your confidence.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. It seems like such a minor thing, but just think about it. Imagine if you hired an attorney and they had certain forms that they had to look through, and they didn't know what they were all about. How confident would you be in them? Also, too, we now have 11 forms that we need to get filled out on a listing, right? When you include all the new ones that they put in with fair housing and COVID, if those forms aren't half filled out when you walk through the door, whether you do it virtually, okay, and you just have them sign, or you do it where they can look at the forms and touch it, you do it more tactilely. Either way, you need to do these things so you don't spend an inordinate amount of time there once you get commitment. Because believe me, they will think of questions to ask you that you may just not have the answers to. Right? Once we get commitment, we want to get the commitment. We want to do what we have to do our little pleasantries, and get out and start our job. Right? Because we got to order pictures. We got to do a lot of things. Last presentation I went on, I actually had the photographer show up a half hour after I got there. So when I was talking to the people and they were kind of giving me, oh, well, you know, we'll think about it, we'll get to it. I said, well, the photographer's here. I sent you the staging protocol. Everything looks ready to me. Are you ready? Yeah, okay, I guess we are. Sign here, sign there, sign here, sign there. Brought the photographer in, took the pictures, and away we went. I know it's a little chancy, and well, we knew the photographer, so it worked a little bit better. But that was one thing that kind of pushed it a little bit further. Right? So you want to be a little bit memorable, and the way people remember you is if you impact them, if you make an impact on them, okay, whether negatively or positively. And negative impacts are always remembered more, right? Understanding care and value. Now, aren't those just things in OCAR, right? Obedience, care, value, all those things are there. The only thing that's not here is confidentiality, and that's what, you know, really separates the difference between a customer and a client. Is confidentiality. You can't have confidentiality with both sides, right? So that makes you customer-centric, and these are the attributes of a customer-centric agent. But not all agents are customer-centric. Not everybody is always thinking about the customer. A lot of people, most of the time, are thinking about just the opposite, right? So we want to stay relevant. And the one way we stay relevant is about knowing the market that we're in. Command gives you a lot of ways to do that. You could stay hyper-local very, very easily. But there's also things in MLS that you could do that will help you know your local market as well. So you have to know where you're going. That's why I say if you're going on a presentation, you have to know everything that's sold on that street within the last 2 years. It's not that it's going to be relevant to the presentation. It's going to be relevant to you looking like you know what you're doing. Because they will bring up a neighbor's house, and it might not necessarily have sold within the time frame that you want to take for comps, but it's going to be relevant to them. And if you don't know about that, it kind of lets that meter go down a little bit in terms of confidence. You want to know their preferred communication styles. Now, I'm not talking about texting, telephone. Everybody communicates differently because everybody has a different personality. And some people kind of want to be helped along. Other people want to feel like they're in control. And if you don't know the different types of person that you're talking to and what those characteristics are, it's going to make it difficult because you may clash. Right? Know your value proposition all the time. What do you bring to the table? And let me ask you a question. Do you know all the value that Keller Williams brings to the table? Because company, if you don't have a reputation, right? If you don't have a reputation yet, you don't have a lot of sales that you've done. Your company has done a lot of sales, and you're part of that company. So do you know what Keller brings to the table as opposed to what their competition brings to the table? If you don't know about your company, you need to learn, because you're going to sell your company as you sell yourself. And value proposition is about selling both, actually, right? So 4 ways to sell relevant, right? Know your market and your demographic. So if you're in a certain area, like let's say you're in a certain area of Brooklyn, okay, and you're looking at rentals, you have to know that a lot of places in Brooklyn right now are not looking at a standard way of renting. A lot of people are renting out per bedroom. Okay, so they're looking at roommate situations more than they're looking at family situations, because roommate situations can potentially pay them more. If you understand that demographic, you could cater a little bit more into it. If you don't, and you just go for what the standard rentals are, it might put you a little bit behind. Also, too, knowing the area, knowing how many places are available, how many months of worth of inventory. Is it a renter's market? Is it a landlord's market? Who's paying the fee? For example, in Brooklyn, it's not unusual now to have the landlord pay. You get a lot of OP, you get a lot of owner pay. So that's something that you can't really talk about a lot in Queens. People in Queens believe that the tenant is paying most of the time. But in Brooklyn, it's just the opposite, because there's so many apartments available. There's so many apartments available in Manhattan, they may start giving you a catered meal just to walk through the door, because things are getting that out of hand, because those are so many apartments that are available right now, especially the bigger apartments. Okay, that seems to be becoming a little bit more prevalent now. I know you guys, a lot of you guys out there do rentals. Have you been finding any pushback in the rental market? Have you been finding apartments rent very quickly, or apartments staying on the market a little bit longer? What's been going on there? Who's doing rentals? Talk to me.
Rentals seem to go pretty quick.
Did your apartment go quick? Your condo?
Yeah.
How long did it last on the market, Keisha? Your rental.
Maybe,
how long was it on?
Maybe a month and a half.
So the landlord lost a month's rent, right?
I think, yeah, maybe a month. Yeah.
Okay. So the landlord lost about a month?
Yes.
Okay. So in that case, it's about 92% occupied. So if you were going to do a study on that, you would say, on that particular apartment per se, you would say over the last year it was 92% occupied. It wasn't 100% occupied because they lost a month, right? But what the more relevant thing there is that most people, when they start losing a month or 2 months and they're dependent on that income, a lot of perception and attitude changes. They need to know, by asking maximum dollar, if they're in a market where they have a lot of competition, unless they're giving maximum value for maximum dollar, it may not work out so well. Same thing with homes. If you're asking maximum value and there's a lot of homes available, you better be giving some sort of value, because once you put a home on the market, it's no longer a home, it's a product. And now you're price pointing that product. So you have to remember that people buy value, buyers buy value. If they don't see the value, or the value is all the same, you may succeed in selling someone else's home, because they'll look at your home value-wise and they'll look at the other home value-wise, and they'll see that the other home has either the same value for less money or more value for less money, and they'll buy the other home. Right? You got to be the local economist, but you can't talk from anything but about what you know. So if you have the correct data and you know how to do a market analysis and you know how to do market analytics, which is all in MLS, then You can do that. What you don't want to do is, I think, right? How much do you think my home is worth? Well, I don't think, I know. And I know because it's based on the data that I have. Now, yeah, market might have a little something to do with that. Where do you think the market is right now? Like, do you think sellers are more optimistic than lenders right now? Do you think people are running into situations, meaning agents and sellers are running into situations where properties aren't appraising because of optimistic viewpoints that lenders aren't agreeing with? You think that might be happening?
It's happening.
It's happening. It's happening all over. More and more real estate agents are getting hit with low appraisals, and then they have to go back to the table and they have to talk. But understand, once the house underappraises officially, that's a declination. If the buyer cannot afford to buy that house because they're not getting the mortgage amount that they need that was decreed on the contract, that's a decline. And once they decline, the contract can be voided. It's not as easy as that, but that's basically what happens, right? Build a team of providers who can assist you. Now, I'm not talking about building a real estate team. I'm talking about having a team of people in back of you that can help you with any situation that may arise in real estate. Do you know a locksmith? Do you know an electrician? Do you know a contractor? Do you know a roofer? You know somebody who cleans out houses? Do you know a termite guy? Do you know a home inspector? Do you know attorneys? And if you don't, why not? Because one thing that all those people have in common is they live somewhere. So not only are you talking about them, about the possibility of giving them business and being able to refer to them, you're also talking to them about the possibility of being able to help them as a broker or as an agent. You see, the uniqueness about what we do is that we don't come with inventory. In other words, when you think about opening up a real estate company or starting a business, you may have some inventory that you bring over with you from another business, but for the most part, the cupboard's bare. If you don't go out there and you don't find, you have nothing to sell. You can cooperate with other real estates and be dependent upon them in order to sell their merchandise. You can do that, but not only are you cutting your money in half, you're also now becoming codependent. So that's why when we bring real estate in, the first thing we want to do is be teaching them how to sell, teaching them how to list. Because there's an expression in our business, you need to list to last. Jen, would you agree with that? Any agent.
100%, Marco.
Right. You need to list to last, right? Because once you are able to get listings, that's going to empower you a little bit to be in control. You get well-priced listings, now that's a whole different story. See, anybody can go out and get a listing by telling the seller what they want to hear. But sometimes what the seller wants to hear is not necessarily what the market is doing. That's where the salesmanship comes in. Okay? And it's really on a consultative basis. It's not on we're pushing something down. We're saying this is the way a bank is going to look at your property. And if the lender doesn't agree with even what the buyer is selling or what you're willing to accept, if you don't have those three things, it's not going to happen. And the sad thing about it is you usually find that out in the last third of the transaction. In other words, you've already built up a marketing plan. You've already found a purchaser. You've already gone to contract. You've already ordered a title. You've already got your mortgage in place. And then you find out your home didn't appraise. Well, we started doing our work before we walked through the door. So we know that if we're in line here with pricing, we know everything else just has to kind of fall into place. If we know that we can do it with the appraisal, it's going to make our job that much easier. And the longer you have a listing, the more you should do appraisals. Well, we can't do appraisals, CMAs. The more you should do comparative market analysis as that listing stays on the market, because the market might have changed. And if the market changed, you have to be aware of it, right? That's what makes you the local economist. Here's another thing too. For those of you who don't know, and I only heard this through Keller, so I'll say this is a Kellerism. Keller has a thing called the theory of 10. And it goes like this: 10 showings, no offer, right? 10 days, no showing. It's time to talk about price. Okay? So 10 showings, no offer, 10 days, no showing. It's time to talk about price. Just remember that. Remember that dynamic. Okay? Now, does it have to be 10? Could it be 15? Because everybody wants to play with it, right? Can't we just wait a little longer to try to get our price? Sometimes with people, you have to kind of show them or give them what they're looking for, as long as you could put in a safety valve somewhere down the line. So if people want to start a little bit optimistically, then what I usually do is say, okay, fine, let's try it your way for 2 weeks. So let's try it your way for 3 weeks. If we don't get what we're looking for in 3 weeks, we agree to sit down and revisit our strategy. Would that be okay? Yeah, sure, we could do that. Okay, great, sign here. Now, here's the funny thing. If they're really motivated to sell and they're not getting what they're looking for, you'll get that call and they'll say, do we have to wait 3 weeks, or can we talk right now? Because you can do that too, right? So when building a team of providers, these are people who might be associated somehow with real estate, but not in real estate, that will help you. Number one, they'll make you more knowledgeable. And number two, they'll give you assistance, because now when you go in and you talk to somebody, you might have a situation where you're going in on an estate. Maybe the parents passed and the kids live out of state. They don't have a lot of connections here anymore, but they need some things done. Maybe they need to clean out the house. Maybe they need somebody to fix it up a little because they don't want to show it in that condition. If you have these people behind you that you can recommend to them, I'll almost guarantee you that you'll get the listing. And you'll be able to talk to these people. And just remember, how would you feel if somebody came up to you as a real estate agent and said, listen, I just started a new business where I need a real estate agent. So would you mind if I recommended business to you? And in turn, maybe every once in a while, if I need some, you can give me some real estate advice. That's exactly what you do to an attorney. That's exactly what you do to a contractor. That's exactly the conversation you have with any provider, with any vendor. Would you mind if I gave you business for your services, and in turn, I would just ask you for advice if I need it? That works great with a CPA, right? You should know a CPA. You should know an accountant that you should be able to call and get advice. Not that you're giving tax advice, but you could certainly recommend those people to them. Because you're going to get into situations where people want to know how much they're going to walk away with, and you're not going to be able to give that exactly because you don't know what their tax liabilities are. Nor should you. Okay, you can have an idea of it, but you're not an accountant. Refer them to an expert. They have a legal situation, refer them to an expert. All right, so one of the ways we can stay relevant is by doing a market trend. Right now, I have videos up here, and I know that we now have on our YouTube channel, our office YouTube channel, we have the same videos up there. A market trend is just showing you what the market is doing in a certain period of time. It's not necessarily one family's, it's the residential side or the commercial side. This is not specific, this is general, but it's giving you an idea of what that particular market's doing. So this is the way Queens was reacting in August of 2020. You had 1,100 listings come on the market, which gave us a total of 3,343 listings, of which 252 closed. So if we divide the closings into the listings, we see that we have 5.1 months of merchandise, which anything below 6 is what? Anything below 6, is that a buyer's market or seller's market if it's below 6?
Is it a seller's market?
Right. just remember, right? Economics, right? Supply and demand. Less supply, more demand. It's going to always be on the seller side, right? More supply, less demand, it's going to be on the buyer side. So the higher the number of absorption time, okay, is going to indicate that there's more merchandise on the market. Therefore, it's becoming more of a buyer's market. This is right on the edge of becoming a buyer's market. Anything 6 or above in terms of inventory on the market is going to lean towards a buyer's market. Now, this might not give you exactly the information you need, but it's certainly going to make you more relevant, and it's certainly going to make you more aware of what you're going into. Because if you're going into an area where houses lag and houses stay on the market 60, 90, 120 days, you got to know you're in there for the long haul. Or you have to figure out what you can do to differentiate your house. The same way the people are looking on what's your value proposition, part of what your value proposition is the tools that you bring in order to get them to where they want to go. They don't really care what company you work for. They'll give you a company credence, but what they're really purchasing is they're purchasing your ability to be able to get done what they need done. The next thing you could do is stats and counts, right? That video is up there as well. Now, stats and counts is more specific. And what we've done here is this particular stats and counts, what we looked at is we can see average-wise where houses come on the market, what they're adjusted to, where they sell, how long it takes. So this gives you the relationship of time as it is related to price. So if you price your house in a certain way, you can expect it to be on the market this amount of time. What's really relevant about this, if we go all the way down and we look at the high, look at how long the high side stays on the market. So we know if we list around here that you're going to send them 2 birthday cards. I hope your sign doesn't last that long, actually. But I'm just telling you, now there's obviously something wrong with the number. I think this is somewhere out on Long Island. I just picked this last night because look at the taxes. That might be a reason why it was on the market so long. And by the way, that could have been a misprint. Okay, it could have been a misprint on what we're getting in terms of data back to us when we're looking at this, but it also could be a misprint if you get a listing. If you get a listing and you don't examine everything that's relevant to that listing, like do the taxes seem like they're normal within the range of what other things are selling for? Because is the room count, are they looking at the house the same? I've looked at many houses that were classified as 2 families, but were really 1 family. So when you went to go do a CMA on them, even though you wanted to do a CMA on a 2, an appraiser, when they see that that house is listed as a 2 family, unless it's a 2 being sold as a 1, which you can do that, but you can't sell a 1 as a 2. But when you get to the technical side of them looking at that home, that could be a big deterrent. So by you being able to get on the phone and talking to the lender and saying, hey, look, I know you're looking at this and this says it's a 2, it's not a 2, it's a 1. Okay, and they might be being taxed as something different than what they are. And sometimes that's just because it's a bureaucracy. Somewhere along the line, they screwed up. But they may pay for that later on. When it comes sale time and everything has to be re-recorded and looked at and gone over, the title company may pick up on that, an appraiser may pick up on that, a bank legal department may pick it up. So you really have to make sure all your T's are crossed and all your I's are dotted. But that's another value that you bring to the table. Some people are just so happy they get the listing, they go out, they list it, they do whatever they have to do, and then they don't realize that part of the information that they're putting up there is not correct, and that little thing might be holding them back. Also, too, in the age of internet and putting everything online, there's a thing called geotagging. So your home, I know this happens all the time with Kew Gardens, so I'll give this as an example. Your home could be in Kew Gardens, but the post office that Kew Gardens works may be somewhere else. And usually it works by postal markation. So when you geotag, it may come up in a completely different area and you may not be able to change that.
Marco, I think it's the same with Elmhurst and Flushing and
That's right.
Fresh Meadows.
Flushing post office is huge.
Yeah.
So you'll see a lot of Flushing. Whitestone sometimes is Flushing.
Yeah, because my address is East Elmhurst, but then a lot of my mail says Flushing, and it pisses me off.
Actually, it should make you happy. So Flushing sells for quite a premium. But the seriousness of that is, but you see how that could get, if you're looking for something in Elmhurst and it's showing Flushing, you can see how that might stop people from going to see it. Because when people go in and they start looking for a home and they put the name of the area, if it's not synonymous with the name that's on the listing, in other words, if they say they're looking for Elmhurst and your listing is coming up Flushing, there has to be a discussion. Someone has to pick up the phone and talk to somebody and see if they can get those geotags changed. Now, I know Zillow will listen to you. You can call them up. You can talk to them. I've had geotagging changed there. I know MLS will do it. When it was LIBOR, I never had a situation yet where I had to talk to One Key about it, but they seem pretty hospitable, so they can help you there too. But it's something that you should know as an agent. Also too, if your listing is getting old, you should redo your pictures. And sometimes when you have your pictures taken, make sure they take all different perspectives, all different views. Because if you have to redo them, it could be as simple as taking it from a front view to a side view of the front of the house, just to make it look fresh. Right? That could be part of your value, understanding that you have to refreshing your pictures. Also, if you take your pictures around a holiday, or you have snow on the ground and now it's the spring or the summer, you may not want to use that picture. It kind of shows that it's a little old. If there's Halloween decorations on it and it's St. Patty's Day, you may want to rethink it. Right? So these numbers here are something that we could show relationship on time on the market to pricing. Also, too, you can use this when you're working with a buyer, because now we know the tipping point of what houses are selling for in this area. So we know if the buyer is between 0 and 3%, they're within ballpark range of what most houses are selling for in the median range. Might that be powerful? Might that be valuable to a buyer? Most buyers' questions are, where do I start? What price do I offer that I'm not offering too much, but I'm still going to be able to get the house? Now, in hot markets, you got to tell people sometimes the asking price is just the starting price. It's not really the asking price. It's where they want to start, but it's not necessarily where they're going to finish. And people pay over market value or over asking price readily now. That's a very, in hot areas, you go to Suffolk County where the absorption time is 1%. People are routinely going over asking price. As a matter of fact, agents are purposely setting the asking price a little below market so they can create almost a multiple offer aspect and kind of like an auction atmosphere. So are they doing the best for their client? Absolutely. Is it super frustrating for the agent who's trying to sell it? Yep, it is. Again, that's why you want to be on the listing side. See, being on the listing side, it doesn't bother you that much, right? So no preferred communication styles. Now, I don't have the time to go into all of these, but some people are assertive, right? They make decisions easily. They're determined, they're persistent, they're direct, they're quick to move forward to solve problems, and they have a clear sense of direction. Keisha, is everybody like that?
Nope.
Right? Other people are sociable, right? They're socially confident, they're diplomatic, they're tactful, they're a practiced communicator, they have a wide circle of contacts and friends. Now, if you meet someone that's sociable, right, do you think they might be a valuable resource for referrals? More so than the assertive one? I guarantee you, the assertive one knows other people that are as assertive as them. But really what you want is you want to talk to this person. You may even want to recruit this person. Because just by working from their sphere, and if they're the kind of person that they always want to organize the party, they want to always organize the get together, that's a sociable or an amiable person, right? Maybe you'll meet somebody who's structured, right? See here, likes to be right. One of my favorite expressions is they'd rather be right than be correct. So it's not necessarily what's truly right. They just want to be right. So if you're constantly going against whatever their thinking is, do you think you're making a good impression and they're going to want to work with you? Jen, you still on the line?
Yes,
Jen, how would you work with someone who wants to be right all the time?
I would nod my head a lot. I would mirror their actions, and I would not go up against him. I would work my way around getting my point across.
I noticed how you said him. You said
that's my experience.
I noticed how you put him in there. Yeah, listen, this is not necessarily confined to male or female. It could be.
No, it's not. But Marco, let me just say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes in those situations, you do have to be a little bit strong in the right way, because you need to assert your authority that you are the expert.
Sure.
And I try to get him or her on my side. So I'll say things like, we're a team, you're the boss, I obey your lawful instruction,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to protect you. That's how I do it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've worked with all kinds of people, okay? And I can tell you, you're going to meet people that are director drivers. They're structured. They want it their way, okay? But you can work with that person, allow them to believe that they're in control, and still be in control of the situation. Sometimes just by letting it go through them rather than go through you is the way to do it. Ask them more questions. What do you think? How do you think this would work? Does this sound right to you? Now, who am I deferring to? Them, right? Because it's all about them anyway. They're just bringing me in for my expert opinion. Whether they take it or not is a different story, right? And these people here, these structured people, they're usually, it has to add up. So I know a lot of real estate agents, they always claim, I'm not good with numbers. I'm not a number person. Well, you don't have to be good with numbers. You just have to know how to explain them. So if you're going to give somebody a stats and counts and you can show them how this is relevant to them, somebody who's structured is going to like that. Right? Where you have somebody that, they're not into the graphs and they're kind of a people person and has to feel warm and fuzzy. They have to feel right about the situation. Sometimes someone's vocabulary will tell you exactly the way they learn or the way they take in information. People will say, I don't feel right about this, right? Or people will say, I don't see it the way you do. I'm not hearing you. They're telling you that this is the way they process information. So if you're not giving them information in that way, they're not processing it the right way. Or they're not processing it the best way that they can. So you got to listen to those little things, right? And then you meet the steady person, right? They listen intently. They're steady, calm demeanor. They're emotionally controlled. And when expressing a feeling or opinion that others are likely to trust. See, if you can be this person most of the time, when you go into a listing or when you're giving a presentation, that person is going to be pretty much accepted by all three. But you may have to also exert a little bit of authority over certain people in order to get them to where they want to go. Some people just need to be pulled along. I don't like to use the word pushed, but some people just need to be pulled along because they're just not used to making those kind of decisions, or something about making that decision brings a certain other feeling along with it, or gives them a feeling of closure that they just don't want to deal with at that time. And you have to be aware of that. Homes, people are very emotionally attached to their home. And if you're not aware of that and you're treating it more like a product and you're not giving it the sense that they really need to see you do, then it's not going to work. But then you're going to get the other person is, look, I don't care what you do, just get it sold. I've heard that too. Please don't bore me with everything that you're going to do. I don't care how you do it, just do it. Get it done. Call me when it's done. Now that's probably this guy, okay? Or girl, right? The assertive one. They make decisions quick. Don't bore me with this. I have no time to hear you. I just want it done. I need it done so I can move on and do something else. But this is an acronym that we came across not too long ago, right? So why am I talking so much? Right? So you should write this down on all your forms, because if you're the one doing all the talking, chances are your presentation's not going too well. Because now you're talking at them, you're not listening to them. So why am I talking so much? If you're the one doing all the talking, which is one of the reasons, by the way, I'm not a big fan of Zoom, because sometimes I feel like I'm talking all the time, whereas we're in a classroom setting, we feed off of one another more. Keisha, you've been in my classes. You know that I like to make my classes as interactive as possible. We really haven't figured out yet how to do that on Zoom, but believe me, if there's a way of doing it, I'm all in. Because this way, where you don't get any feedback right away, it's kind of odd. I can tell you that. But why am I talking so much? Very, very good to put into your presentation, because you want to be the one asking the questions. You want them to be talking 75% of the time, right? So stay relevant. Know your value proposition. From the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Top real estate agents always have a clear understanding of why they should be hired, and they are able to articulate it to anyone at any time, right? That's called an elevator pitch. What is it that you do? So if somebody said to me, productivity coach, what do productivity coaches do? Well, we change people's lives. That's what we're there to do. We're there to help you achieve whatever goal it is that you want to achieve. We want to make you the best version of you. That's what productivity coaches do, right? So what do real estate agents do? Right? Anybody got an elevator pitch they want to share with me? Hey, George, I'm going to pick on you. What do real estate agents do?
We do everything on the earth. We sell.
Kind of a cop-out?
We sell, we buy, we invest, we help people find their home.
Okay. So let's say you got on an elevator with me, and I'm talking to someone on a phone, right? And I say to them, yeah, you know, we got to sell grandma's house. We got to do it quick because so-and-so has to leave town in a certain amount of time. All right? So you're up. That's it. You heard that we got to sell grandma's house. You're in the business of selling grandma's house, right? So
yeah.
Now, how are you going to introduce yourself to me?
Hello, miss. Sorry to interrupt. I was overhearing your conversation, my name is George. I'm a real estate agent. I've been in the business for X amount of years. I would love to help you and your family find your grandmother's sell your grandmother's house. And you know, you start asking questions. Where does she live? If you're in the elevator and you guys get out, depending on where you are, hey, let me buy you a cup of coffee on me. Take my card, something along those lines.
Okay, you can do that. But who did all the talking?
You did. You're not supposed to.
Okay, no. Let's just go back a little. So what you did wasn't wrong, and what you did was more than a lot of real estate agents would do, so that's good, right? Doing something is better than doing nothing. So, but let's just look at it a little way. Could you figure out a way of getting that whole message across
With her
asking
talking
questions?
Yeah.
What I would do is I would say, I'm sorry, I couldn't help but overhearing that you're thinking about selling your home. Let me ask you, do you know the value of it?
No, I don't. It's just my grandma. She wants to get rid of it and move down with her kids in,
I understand. I understand. Where's the home located?
In Astoria, Queens.
In Astoria. You know what? I make my living helping people like you. My name is Marco. I'm from Keller Williams Liberty Real Estate. I would love to come over and give you a comparative market analysis on your home, at least so you know the value. Would that be okay?
I just met you in the elevator. I'll have to talk to my daughter.
You know, it's funny. Some of my most successful relationships started out exactly this way, where people just met me. But
Yeah.
you can talk to your daughter about it. It's fine. So if I was to come over, would today at 5 or tomorrow at 6 be better?
Tomorrow at 6 will be good. Do you have
Okay,
a card?
I didn't get your number. What's your number?
Where can I reach you? Okay.
No, I'm going to get your number. This is not where can I reach you. Okay?
Yeah.
Because now I'm fishing.
Okay. Now,
All right? But-
now, Marco, you're letting her talk, but you're also being a little more aggressive, right?
Of course. Of course. What do I have, George?
You don't have anything.
I don't have anything. So what can I lose?
Nothing.
That's right. Okay? But I do know that I have the possibility, and by asking them if they know the value, chances are they don't, or they'd like to hear what you have to say. So
Yeah.
that's kind of hitting them exactly where they're looking to be. They may say, no, I already have a real estate agent that's going to help me. You know, I can respect that. But, you know, when you're dealing with the biggest asset that you
Real
have,
life. Yeah.
right? Isn't it worth it to hear a number of opinions?
Yeah.
When would the best time for me to tell you that?
Wow. Beautiful.
Okay? So does that work with everybody? No, it doesn't. Some people will be very turned off by it and walk out. And other people might be saying on this call right now, wow, that's too aggressive for me. And whatever you think,
I think that's great.
I understand. But not everybody's going to feel that way. And I know that. But I also know if I do nothing, that my result will be nothing. So I'm better off doing what I can rather than going, shit, I should have spoke to those people.
And then it'll kill you even more as you walk away.
Right? Opportunity doesn't come back and knock twice. It knocks once. So if I could show them that I bring some value to them, which I could, right? I could tell them to Google me. They could find out about me, so on and so forth. Anybody who wants to know about me, I don't spend time talking about myself. I've been in this business long enough that if you Google me, you'll find out everything you want to know. Right? Because I'm not going to stand there saying, oh, yeah, I've done this. I've been a successful real estate agent for 40 years. I've run top teams, you know, because everybody talks about that. Everybody's the number one agent, or everybody's a multi-million-dollar producer. Well, if you work in an area where homes are $500,000, that means you sold more than 2 homes. Well, it's 2 more than my daughter sold, and she's not a real estate agent. So anybody could be a multi-million-dollar producer. That doesn't mean anything, and people don't put a lot of stock in that because real estate agents say that all the time. Testimonials, video testimonials, well, that's a whole different story. Okay? But you talking about yourself, it doesn't work. You bringing the value to them, that's what works. That's why we talk about value proposition, right? And that's staying relevant. And that's according to Gary Keller. And he has one more private plane and a couple of more helicopters than I do, so I tend to listen, right? So what I want you to do is this. I know some people on this call haven't been real estate agents too long, but you can just imagine it. If your friends were in a room and they were talking about you, what do you think they would say? What do you think they'd say your high points and your low points would be? What would be the thing that you bring to the table that they find the most impressive? And this is not something that we have to share on the call, but I suggest you take out a piece of paper and write this down, because it's going to help you start figuring out your own personal value proposition. It doesn't necessarily mean that you were a real estate agent in the past and that's what you bring to the table. You can have a unique skill set that kind of sets you apart from the rest. Right? So what story do you want customers to tell about you? So who you are, what do you offer, and what are your benefits? So let me ask you something. Why should I hire you? We get it all the time. We get it all the time. Every time you go on a presentation, it's a job interview. Whether you realize that or not, that's what you're doing. You're interviewing for a job, right? We're independent contractors. The more jobs we get, the more chances we have of being able to make money. The more money we get, the more options we have. So why should I hire you? What makes you so much different than the last two real estate agents that I spoke to? Now, there's two ways of doing that. You can talk about everything that you do right, or you can ask them, what were the reasons why you didn't hire them? Because by them telling you why they didn't hire the other people is kind of telling you what they're looking for. So, right? If they ask a question, you give a question, and then you ask for commitment. Will that work with everybody? No. But remember what we said, right? Why am I talking so much? And if you're the one doing all the talking, then you're not in control of the conversation. So sometimes flipping the script a little bit isn't the worst thing that you could do. And in a presentation, that's very, very strong because it's really getting to more of what they're looking for. What was it that those two real estate agents didn't say that you had to hear in order to make you feel comfortable in hiring them? Right? Because if you're number 3, that means 1 and 2 struck out. Hey, Jen, if you had your choice of being first in the house or last in the house, which one do you want to be?
I want to be first. I want to be first.
My thought has always been, and this was indoctrinated into me since I was a small agent, right? Is if I'm going in first, there isn't going to be a second. There's not. If I'm going in first, I'm getting the listing. Either I die or they do. And that's just the way it is. Because I know that I have a very large chance of walking out and not getting it. You may have people call back. You have a different likability factor than I do. Okay? I'm not getting the call back. If I'm not getting it right then and there, it's very rare that I'll get a call back. Okay. Guys, I want you to take a picture of this screen. This is going to give you, this link here is on Google Drive I shared with you. Okay, this is going to let you pull this up. It's called State Your Value Proposition. You could bring it up, you could print it out, you could fill it out, and it's going to give you, it's going to put you on track because it's going to force you to start looking into yourself, becoming a little bit more introspective. If you don't have that, I'll post it again on our Facebook page. I'll post that slide, right? So know your value proposition. So we have built a full service team specifically for consumers. For the same price as working with a normal agent, consumers can take advantage of our buyer specialists, listing agents, marketing department, transaction coordinators, telemarketers, inside sales, and virtual assistants. Think people might find that valuable? Now, does that mean you have to be part of a team in order to have all that? Or can you just work as a team with the people in your office and still have all that? Do you have someone who will help you with marketing? Yes, you do. That's the keynote. Do you have someone that can back you up in terms of any of the knowledge that you need? Well, you got the ALC, you have John, you have Jennifer, you have me. I think our combined experience must be close to 100 years. I know between me and John alone, you have almost 74 years. So that's a lot of real estate experience behind you, right? So marketing, you have transaction coordinators. You could certainly help you with that. Telemarketers, well, you're your own telemarketer. Inside sales, well, not really, but you could change that around. You could leave that part out. VAs, virtual assistants, that's becoming a way of life now with real estate agents because they can't afford to have somebody come in the office. They work with someone virtually, and we're all working virtually now anyway. right? Another value proposition. We use our expert advice, local neighborhood knowledge, and up-to-date market data to achieve successful real estate outcomes for our clients daily. Right? What do? It's just another way. Remember what Gary Keller said, right? Find a way to articulate it correctly. These words were sat down and thought about. This is not something that's coming off the top of your head. You're trying to do this, and by using the form that I showed you, will show you how to start getting here, right? Know your value proposition, right? Out to change the way you think about real estate. Prompt and professional services is our guarantee. We sell more because we do more. Innovation, determination, and cutting-edge team approach. I mean, companies spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to come up with these kind of marketing things. We're giving this to you as an idea of where you could start. We have no idea of where you're going to finish. And I guarantee you, anything that you see here, if you take the time, you're going to be able to relate those kind of things more to you. We always can come up with something that's stock, right? But this has already been done. I'm not asking you to reinvent the wheel. I'm just asking you to look into a little deeper. So follow 3 simple steps. Present your value proposition, right? Set your expectations. Listen to your customer. Listen to your customer's needs, their wants, their concerns. Negotiate on how you can service those. So let's see, who do I have on this call still? Keisha, let me ask you a question. Sorry, I got to pick on you again.
All right.
I know you're always in the game. Let me ask you a question. If I said to you, what works better? Doing a $10,000 price break on a home or giving a little bit more on the seller broker's commission to sell the home? Which one would work better?
So when you say a $10,000 price break, that means taking $10,000 off of the price, the listing price?
Off the listing price, right? Like, let's say you got a house for $500,000, right? So you're going to do a price break. So would it be better to take $10,000 off the price of the home, bringing it down to $490,000, right? Or would it be better to add a little bit on, right? Break the price a little bit, but take that $10,000, bring it down to $495,000 and put $5,000 on the seller broker commission. That, by the way, you wouldn't participate in, but you're going to do it to get the home sold quicker. Do you think something like that might motivate agents to come in?
I was going to say, I like the way that sounds.
Yeah, absolutely. I do it all the time. And it works. I'm telling you, I had a situation where I was in an area where every house was pretty much the same and every house was pretty much the same price. So there was not a lot of differentiation. So I thought about it and I said, how can we make this different? And I noticed the compensation down the line was pretty much the same. I said, let's up the compensation. Let's bank on the greed of the real estate agent, right? Which is not a bad thing to do. So we gave a bonus to the agent that could bring a contract about within 30 days. They got an extra, in this particular case, the house was worth over $1 million. So we gave a $10,000 bonus. How many days do you think it lasted on the market? 3. We had it on the market 72 days before I did that. And we sold it 3 days after I did it. And I've done that over and over and over again. And 9 times out of 10, it's very, very successful. And what makes it really successful is by putting a time frame on doing it. You're not putting it and saying it stays there. You're saying if to the agent who can do this within this amount of time.
Believe the siding will come better, the house will look beautiful, bigger, like they will do everything to sell the house.
Not only will they do everything to sell the house, you're right, Ahmed. Not only will they do everything to sell the house, if it's between that house and another house, they'll close on that house more because they know
Yes.
that what they're getting is more.
I believe.
All it is rather than lowering the price a ridiculous, the $10,000, you're taking that $10,000 and you're breaking it up $5,000 to the buyer, because buyers always have a kind of warped expectation of what things cost, and they don't put a lot of value. The difference between $5,000 is not going to make a great difference on $500,000, not normally. But give that to an agent, and that's going to make a real big difference. And the seller will understand that. And the reason why the seller will understand that, because if you explain it to them in such a way, like what you want to do is you want to tell them a little bit of a story, right? So, Mr. Seller, let me ask you a question. If you were a real estate agent and you had listings that would give you 1% of the sale, 2% of the sale, and 3% of the sale, which ones would you show first and why? What do you think they would say?
The highest, of course. I mean,
The highest.
like
The
the
highest.
highest, but it's still in good way for my buyer. But listing showing 1%, I'll be like, why are they doing this? Like, I will automatically try to look for something else.
Okay, right. So the ones that they would show first would be the ones that would compensate higher,
Sure.
right? So this is also a way when you're talking about brokerage, is you want to say, don't you want to motivate agents to come in. And we want them to really be motivated, not only to show your property, but to close hard on it. What do you think the best way to do that is? By compensating them a little bit more than average. Right? And what you could give back to them, you tell them, if I sell it, I don't want the bonus. The idea of the bonus is for you to get a buyer quickly. Because like I told you, I may not be the one that sells your house, but I can guarantee you I will be the one that gets your house sold. That's what they're hiring you for. Not to be the one who sells their home, but to make sure that their home gets sold. They don't care where their buyer's coming from. As long as they get a market price that they're satisfied with and they can close within a time frame that suits their needs with the least amount of hassles to them, they're good. You've done a good job. But you see the third part of this? Seek agreement. This is where most new agents kind of fall off the cliff. They do number one well, they do number two well, but when it comes to seek agreement, they don't want to seek agreement because by seeking agreement, they might get rejected. Someone may say no. Now, I said 4 times in this class today that if you have nothing, you can't lose anything. So you have to go that all or nothing approach when you go in on a presentation, whether you're talking to a buyer or a seller. Because if you don't, someone else will. You need to ask. If you don't ask, you'll never know. After seeing everything I laid out today, do you think this is a good plan to get your home sold? Yes, I do. Good. All I need is your permission and we can get started. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the best, 1 being the worst, and 10 being the best, where would you rate this? When you ask that to somebody, where do most people rate it? Keisha, where would you rate it? 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. Where would you rate it?
Between 7 and 9, I think people.
All right, pick a number, because this is a close. I'm going to show you how to do this. So you got to remember this. 8. So you would say it's an 8. What would make it a 10?
Yeah, I guess I would have to tell you what makes it a 10.
Right? What would
Yeah.
make it a 10? Now watch, it gets better. So now you tell me to make it, what would make it a 10? What would make it a 10 plus? Because that's exactly where I'm aiming for. Now, if you ask them what would make it a 10, are they going to tell you what they need to hear in order for them to move forward?
They should.
Yeah, you use the 1 to 10. The 1 to 10 works really, really well. And so if you don't want to close them directly and you want to kind of close them indirectly, ask for an impromptu survey on what they think they just saw. Rate it 1 to 10. And most people will say it's an 8 or a 7. What would make it a 10? And then they'll tell you, well, you know, if the commission was a little lower. So if the commission was a little lower, that would make it a 10, correct? Yeah. How low would the commission have to be? And then when they tell you, so what you're saying is if we can get together on a commission of that price, you'd be willing to sign all the paperwork and we can move forward. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I just also showed you how we could show them by paying a little bit more commission, how it might be more beneficial to them, right? I'm selling the value to them. So we can do both. And if they ask for something ridiculously low, or if they say, I had somebody in here that would do this for 2, what would you say? I had somebody come over here, you know, the last real estate agent I had here told me they would do this at 2% or do this at 3%. That's usually what I hear. What would you say, Ahmed?
I was trying to pay attention, but I'm sorry. Like I believe like the higher percent would be better, and it's not a loss that you put some of the price down towards the the buyer agent. But I was trying to acknowledge more of the question.
Okay, no problem. Let's role play a little, right?
Okay.
I'll be a seller, you be an agent.
Okay.
Right? You know, Ahmed, I like everything you have to say, but you know, the last agent I had in here told me they would do this for 3. What would you do it for?
I mean, how much was the sale like? What did they promise you like for the sale price in the first place? And I will do it for 3, but I will do it right and hopefully fast.
Do you really want to do this for 3? I'm asking you as a coach and a manager. Do you really want to take this listing at 3%? Can it change
Yes.
the amount of work you do, or you do? Okay. Well, I don't want you to. And the reason why I don't want you to take this listing at 3% is because I know that if you do your job right, it's not going to change the amount of work you're going to do. It's going to change the amount you're going to get paid for the work that you do. And I want you to be able to understand your value. Your value proposition is not only your value proposition to the person, it's also the value proposition to yourself. And if you start bringing more to the table, you're worth more. So
Sure.
This is what I would ask, right? And again, we have to learn how to speak in questions. So I would say to the seller, so you had someone in here that would do this for 3, is that correct? Yes. And you didn't hire them? No. What was it that was missing from them that you needed to see me? But it obviously wasn't the commission because you already had that.
Okay.
What's missing?
He will start talking, and that's where I'm gonna.
Right. The more he
line.
talks, because you see, every study I've ever read, okay, agents want to think commission is the line of demarcation, when in fact it's not. The line of demarcation is the services and how quick you can solve whatever need it is that they have. People don't mind paying for something when they see the value. If they don't see the value, they're not going to pay. Okay? And that's just the way it works. But if they see the value, buyers buy value, sellers buy value, agents buy value, right? When you were looking for an agency, if you went to agency A, agency B, and then came to us, there's a reason why you stopped at us. There had to be something more valuable that you were getting with us than you were getting from A and B, which is why you chose us. So you brought value. Everybody does. So it's just the value that you bring to the table. Sometimes what you pay for that as long as you get what you pay for, you don't mind paying. I mean, everybody has to get a little bit of a deal, and I understand that. Okay, but we're in the business of negotiating all the time. But what we really have to keep in mind more than anything else is that although we're in business all the time, the amount of work we do, because there's a certain amount of work you have to do on everything, is not going to change. It's just going to be the compensation you take for doing that. And sooner or later, you're going to become demotivated because it's not going to be worth it. Right? On that note, Lakeisha, did we get the co-op in contract?
Yes, we're in contract.
Okay, that's the end of that.
Yeah, now if we could just get this last one. Good luck.
Yes, thank you.
Good work.
Okay. All right. So prevent your value proposition, right? All customers want peace of mind. Share your personal record of accomplishment. Now, if you don't have any, the office does. Include third-party testimonials. Always work better. Make sure it relates to the customer's wants and needs. So if you rented an apartment, right, and the people are standing there, they're happy, they just got their agreement, they're all excited about moving in, stop for a moment. Take a little video of them. What do you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think Marco's services were like in helping you rent that apartment? Oh, it was definitely a 10. Was it worth the money that you paid? Yes, it was. Would you recommend Marco to other customers? Yes, I would. Great. That's a little testimonial. Put that up on your social media. Let people know you did your job right. Okay? Offer service guarantees. I'm not big on guarantees. I mean, you can guarantee certain people certain things. You want to give them a get out of jail free card, meaning that if you're not happy with my services in a certain amount of time, I'll release you free of any obligation. You want to do something like that to make people, feel a little bit easier? I have no problem. But by making certain guarantees, unless you can live into them, it's a slippery slope. So I always want you to underpromise and overachieve, not overpromise and underachieve. Right? Underpromise, overachieve. If you give people beyond what they're expecting, they're always going to talk about you. You give them below what they're expecting, they'll talk about you too, but not in such a great way. That party conversation may not go over exactly the way you want. Offer service guarantees, right? Provide timely and systematic updates. Where most agents fail is follow-up. They do study after study after study, and they find that most people would work with the same agent twice, or most people don't have a problem working with an agent at all. It's their follow-up, it's the agent's follow-up that lacks. Remind them that you're their partner. Jen said that right away, right? When we were talking about working with a certain type of client, she said, I would tell them that we're in this together. I would work together with them. I would let them know that we're partners in this, right? There's certain things that you can do on presentations if the presentation is tactile and you want to get the person involved and you want to see how involved they want to get. You can ask them. I made up a small ad on what it would look like to advertise your home. I was wondering, what would you change here? If they're starting to work on the ad with you, they've already accepted you as a partner, right? You can also use assumptive language. So once we start showing the house, do you mind if we open the closet doors? Well, I didn't give you the listing yet, right? That's telling you they're not ready to commit. But if they're starting to go along, you're in there before you're in there, okay?
Marco, which side of the lawn would the sign look best? Do you think stuff like that?
Jen, I got to tell you something. I took a boot camp class one time, right? And part of the boot camp was, the posts that you could stick in the lawn with your foot, right? The for sale signs. Not
yes.
The ones that you dig, the ones you could stick in the lawn. Okay. I went up to a for sale by owner, and this is what we had to do with a sign on a post. And I rang their bell and I asked them exactly that question. And he said to me, "Are you crazy? I'm selling the home myself." And I said, "No, I'm just asking, do you think it'll look better in the front or on the side? Because I'm doing exactly what they trained me to do." And then he said to me, you know, and he started to get really belligerent. And what I was trained to say is some of my best relationships started out exactly this way. And he started laughing. And once he laughed, guess what I got to do? Put the sign in his lawn. That day, I got that for sale by owner to give it to me. So I'm not saying that that would work all the time, but that's a pretty brazen thing to do. And it might be just enough of a pattern interrupt that you kind of catch them off guard. It's not the stock one where they come to the door and they say, "Go away," and you go away. It's just like Tom Hopkins has a thing where if you knock on the front door and they slam the door in your face, you go to the side door. And when you knock on the side door and they open it up, you say, "Wow, you look much less angry from this angle." It may work. They may slam the door in your face again. Right, so provide timely and systematic updates, right? Remind them that you are their partner. Jen had took you into that relationship. Treat them as you would treat family. Okay, so there's functionary, right? Which telling is selling, which it's not. Response to needs assumes little responsibility. That's the whole thing too. You know, I tell everybody who's in PC, but for those of you who are not in PC on this call, if you don't take responsibility for everything that's being done in your business, or you blame, then what's going to happen is you're going to spend so much time with the blame, whereas if it's your fault, there's no thought about it. Yeah, you know what? It's me. I screwed up. Let me find a way of putting the system in place that I'll make sure this won't happen anymore. Now, that's not going to be the conversation I have with my client, but that's the conversation I just had with myself to make sure I don't make the same mistake over and over again. Complete tasks. The only way you do that is by putting it on your calendar and making sure that they're done. Some people are good starters and poor finishers. Some people are poor starters and good finishers. You have to be both, especially when you're managing. Deliver information, but not only deliver information, giving it to them in a way that they process it best. Meet expectations, right? And functionary is always replaceable. Whereas instead of telling and selling, you serve, you educate, and you guide. This is consultative. Okay, and more companies are turning away from tell and sell to serve, educate, and guide. Why? Because it's less caustic to the people. And number two, it gets you more involved. It gives them a sense that you're not just an order taker, that you actually care about their needs and you want to see them achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve. That's whether you're in a management position or you're in a real estate position, because really they don't differ. The difference between someone in leadership and a real estate agent is just what we deal with. In leadership, we deal with people primarily. And as a salesman, as a real estate salesperson, you're dealing with property primarily. But we're both dealing with people. And the wants and needs analysis is the most important thing. If you know what they want, you know what they need, and you can find a way of doing it, giving it to them, then you're going to achieve. You know, Ben Franklin said, find a way of giving somebody what they want in the time frame they want it, and you'll be successful. That hasn't changed. Right? Anticipate needs. Sometimes you can see through your experience that what they're going to need, they haven't even thought of yet. But by giving them that, by explaining to them that, well, when we take the first step, you're also going to have to take the second step, and that involves this. Letting them know what they need to know, even though they don't know they need to know it, is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. Right? Accept high responsibility. You know, it's all you. Good or bad. You can take all the accolades, but you got to take all the blemishes too. Right? Own your results. Don't try to deny them. And understand that you need to fail in order to succeed. This is not going to work 100% of the time. I've never seen anything that does. Well, actually, I have. The one thing that works 100% of the time is do nothing. You could pretty much expect that if you do nothing 100% of the time, your result will be zero. Right? Deliver information, we advise and consult, right? You're not hammering the information down their throat. You're saying, this is what I see. In my experience, this is what happens when we see this. What do you think is the best thing for us to do? Right? Exceed expectations. Remember what we were talking about promising, right? Under promise, over deliver, not over promise, under deliver. Irreplaceable. People who like people, and it's a great example here. I'll talk to people, and I think this applies to men as well as women too. I know most people have someone who cuts their hair that they like, right? When that person kinds of goes away, it kind of feels like a loss because that person brings a certain value to you, makes you feel comfortable. You feel comfortable giving them your image for them to work on, right? Well, that's the same kind of priority that they should put on you as a real estate agent. Not that they lump us all in one pile and say, all real estate agents are the same. The only difference is, I don't know. I don't know if there's any difference, right? Functionary comes with a low price. Fiduciary comes with a higher value. Okay, this is just an example. You can talk to Sakina about this, right? This is called law, the language of real estate. If you're an agent and you've been an agent in a while, you know your numbers, so you know your conversion rates, you know how many listings you have, you know the average time on the market. Well, offices have this too. So last year we did this, last quarter we did this, during a pandemic we did this. You show them your successes. Right? And this is not you telling them abstract things. This is you telling them your numbers. Like Jen said, here's my resume, right? Here's my accolades. This is what I do. The next agent that goes in there, they're going to go in there and they may not have themselves as together as that. So that means a lot. And you're on a job, right? You're on a, you're looking for a job. So if you're looking for a job, aren't you going to prepare? Aren't you going to look for the right things to say and look for the right questions to ask? So I want you to listen to these guys. This is a real estate team. And I want you to see what they came up with as their value proposition. You may agree with it, you may not agree with it, but it's certainly something that's a little bit different. It's not different than what every other real estate agent does, but it's unique in the way that they present it. And it shows the customer value, but I'll let you make your own opinion.
Ethan Lanigan here with Seven Gables Real Estate. I'm here with Ryan Grant, the branch manager for our preferred lending team, the Ryan Grant team. And what we're going to talk to you a little bit about today is the before, during, and after the transaction. Most, realtors and lending teams are pretty, decent at helping you during the transaction. What they miss is helping you before and after the transaction. So I'm going to Ryan highlight a little bit of what we do differently before the transaction to put you in an advantage when you're actually out there shopping for properties.
Thanks, Ethan. So before you buy a home, there's a lot that goes into it. Most people think that they have to find the home first and then try and get the financing and ultimately try and acquire the property. We look at it a lot differently. We want to first make sure that as a buyer, you have all the information and education necessary to make an educated decision as to if you should or should not buy a home. And then if you find out you should, what type of home you should buy, what purchase price, how much you should put down. So we invite all of our clients to come into our office for a consultation, and we walk through everything, different down payment amounts, how it affects your rent versus buy, what your tax benefit would be, and ultimately how it would affect your wealth over time. Once you have that education information, then we take it a step further and we are going to fully underwrite your loan in advance, which makes you look like a cash offer because we can remove your loan contingencies. We can either reduce or completely remove your appraisal contingency, depending on down payment, and we can close in 15 days or sometimes even less. So this allows us to then call the listing agent when you make an offer and say, this is why you should accept our client's offer over all cash, which not only helps your chances of getting your offer accepted, but it also helps you save money against competitive offers. So a lot of ways in which you need to be helped prior to buying a home. And I'll let Ethan talk about how we're going to help you afterwards.
And, you know, don't understate the value of that. We've worked together on multiple transactions, and when you put this package together properly with us working together, and it'll be more of us doing it behind the scenes than it will for you usually, we put you at a competitive advantage. We've had multiple clients get properties and beat out offers that were actually higher because our terms were so much stronger for what you're doing. And after the transaction, we're going to put you in a position where, sadly, in this industry, most of the time it's a handshake, a thank you, a bottle of wine, and they never call you again. They call you once a year asking for referrals. Our goal is after the transaction to put you in a position where we're effectively managing your real estate assets on my side, and on Ryan and his team's side, they're effectively managing your debt, putting you in a position where we can actually grow your wealth through real estate as opposed to just owning a property. So if you want more information on our unique value propositions, give us a call. I can send mine out, or Ryan can actually send his out to you, and we'd love to meet with you in person.
All right. Now, I understand that this is more about the lending side than it is the real estate side, but there's a lot of commonality here. So if you tell a seller, you go on a presentation and you tell a seller, my job started before I came into your home. I've done this. And now this is what my findings are, right? Because the seller's going to want to hear not only what you can do, they also want to know if there's going to be any impediment to them selling the home. Maybe there's a violation they need to take care of. Maybe there's a lien that they're not aware of. Maybe there's something wrong with the way the house displays on the assessment record that needs to be addressed. Whatever that case is, if you find that, you're not going in there to tell them everything wrong. You go in there to tell them everything that's right. But at the same token, if they don't close, you're not going to get any money, and neither are they. So the idea is not to list their home. The idea is to sell their home. And the idea is to also make sure that you can clear the way, that they will have as much opportunity as they need in order to get it done and make sure that they're able to close correctly. Did you notice one thing about this? I don't know if these people were nervous or they had a lot of coffee, but they both spoke very quickly. You got to be careful of that. Jen said something about mimicking and mirroring. And what she means by that is you're not going to imitate the person as much as you're going to adopt the way they speak. What's their cadence? And if you do that, it's going to make them more comfortable working with you, if you will. Okay? So that's just a little something about how other people do their value proposition. What I want to do is, I want to get rid of these guys, that's for sure. Okay, so our customers expect to have a competent agent who is educated and knows the market and will protect them in their biggest financial decision in their life. Okay, so you can change that wording around a little bit and you can speak to people in that way, but protecting their biggest financial decision in their life. Do you think that's important? Bringing that up? Absolutely. Because it's all about them. Listen to your customer, right? Truth. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's Gary Keller. He says that all the time. But when you think about it, it's really true. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right? It's all about them. It's going deeper. It's asking pointed, direct questions that get good answers, right? And then eventually get great answers that prompt them into action. Always seek first to understand, pay attention, what they say, how they say it, and what they mean. And you can ask them, can you enlighten me on that? Can you explain that a little bit better so I can understand? This seems very important to you. I don't want to miss anything. Do you mind going over that again? Because once someone brings something up in a small way and you ask them to elaborate on it a little bit more because it's important for you to understand them, they will go a little deeper for themselves. It's just like the 1 to 10 thing. Most people are going to pick somewhere in the upper, the 7 or the 8, just like Lakeisha said. What can I do to make it a 10? Everybody might say that, but what can I do to make it a 10 plus? Really exceed your expectation. What are the 3 aspects a house must have in order for you to purchase it today? What qualities are you looking for in a real estate agent that will make you comfortable enough to sign with them today? Well, I need this, this, and this. You don't have to think about it anymore. They just gave you a shopping list. You know what you need to do. Prepare. Needs analysis is real big, right? Great selling is about asking great questions, listening intently, and improving their responses. Okay? So you're not going to disagree with their responses. You're going to allow them to tell you what they need to say. But as an expert, you're going to show them what the outcome would be using different strategies. I want to do it this way. Okay, fine. Let's look at that. Also, sometimes there's people that may have a different idea of what their home looks like than what it really does look like. So what I'll do is I'll just take pictures with my phone. I'll say, what do you think? Do you think that's compelling? Do you think people will want to come in and see this? Or do you think we can tweak it and change it around a little to make it a little bit better? Now, you also have to know your audience too. If you're speaking to someone that can't get around very well, or maybe doesn't have the energy to do this, well, maybe you can get somebody to do it for them, or maybe doing that might not be something that's on the table. But the more people will get involved in what you're asking them to do, the more motivated they are to do it. Motivated people will find every way to get done what needs to get done. Right? Where are you moving? How soon? Why is that important to you? What will that do for you? Right? What will that ultimately do for you? What are you looking for in a new home? Why is a large yard important? What will that do for you? And now you see, here's the thing. Lots of times buyers will tell you what they want before they tell you what they need. That you have to go a little bit deeper. But all these will help you with it. Seek agreement, right? Do you feel there can be a relationship? This is you as the agent. Do you have rapport with one another? You're analyzing now the situation. Can you meet their needs and expectations? Sometimes people will tell you things that you know is virtually impossible. Can't do it. Right? I've done this, this, and this, therefore I want this. And if I don't get this, I'm not doing it. Are they motivated? I don't know. I haven't asked them enough questions yet. Just because they're putting up blockades to what I'm saying doesn't mean they're not motivated. It might mean that I haven't come across enough trustworthy-wise for them to really open themselves up to me. So you got to keep that in mind as well, right? Win-win. If the answer to any of these questions is yes, it's a win-win. If it's no, we just know we have further to go. So we explore further risk and we ask about their understanding and their expectations. We always come from curiosity. You may have made assumptions and not addressed their concerns. Sometimes people say things and we think we know where they're going. We finish their sentence or complete their thought in our mind, or worse yet, in front of them. And it's not at all what they're thinking. Remember, why am I talking so much? Let them complete their thought. Let them complete their training, their vision of what they have. Listen to what they have to say, and then work from there. If the concern still doesn't feel right, do the next best thing and refer the customer to another agent. And you got to understand, if I go on a presentation and I don't feel that it's working out for whatever reason, I would rather refer them to an agent in my office, because I'll get a referral fee, than watch them go with my competition. Right? So anybody in PC, please listen up. If you go on a presentation and you walk out without the listing, please let me know right away so I can call and maybe I can find out what lacked and add that into it and maybe get the listing for you. Okay, that's not me waiting for them to call you back. That's me calling them back, asking them how you did, because you're on my team and I want to know. So let me ask you this. After hearing everything you did today, and I know it's a lot, do you think you can handle your value proposition in talking to people a little bit differently? I guess that would be no. No, seriously. Do you think you have other ways that you can go into this where you can find more value? Where you could show people your value a little bit better as a real estate agent and as a company? Do you know all the things Keller Williams brings? And if you don't, it might be time for you to find out. Talk to John, talk to me, talk to Jennifer. I will tell you the best way to do it. Read MREA. Read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Most people in Keller Williams read that a number of times. And every time they read it, they get something different out of it. Gary Keller has written The Millionaire Real Estate Agent too, but he won't put it out because he says people still don't get one. Millionaire Real Estate Agent 1 is written for two purposes. It's written to show you how to gross $1 million GCI and then net $1 million GCI. Now, if that doesn't excite you, then we're doing something wrong. Anybody have any questions? No questions? Hey, George, no questions on this one?
I mean, I'm just listening. You're giving a bunch of information. It's pretty direct. I'm just taking notes.
Okay. Any questions on anything you heard? Anything you disagree with? Anything you'd like to add?
No, not at the moment. I'm just, everything you're saying is hitting home.
Good, because the whole idea is say less, ask more.
Yeah.
Okay, all about them.
Yeah, and that's something I need to improve on.
Also,
you know, I come from the background of being a teacher, so I'm the one that's doing a lot of talking.
No, I understand that because the people come in there, they're not knowledgeable. But you find if you work with your student a little bit,
Yeah,
or a little bit
peer
more
learning.
direct,
Yeah.
the more involved you get them, right? The more involved they are.
Yeah.
Right? I understand that. This also works in relationships too. Okay? So if you find yourself being able to ask good questions, you usually get good answers and a better result.
Or just send emojis back and keep it moving.
You see, that's where I'm so lost. Maybe I have to attend an emoji class. I don't know. You know, I'm kind of out of that, so I have to learn a little bit about that.
Good times.
You know, really, I guess so. Yeah, I just don't understand that dynamic. It completely goes over my head. But that's not a bit. That would be very bad, though. If I'm dealing with someone that's younger that understands that, and I don't understand that, and I'm showing them a house or something, and I say to them, can you see yourself living here? And they send me a certain type of emoji, or I'll tell you something that happens to older people all the time is we have cap locks on, right? So, I didn't know until, I guess, a couple of years ago that if you said something in all caps, it means you're more excited.
Or you're yelling at them. You're screaming.
Right. Which my kids would get from me because I guess they don't even think I should have anything but cap locks on my phone. But that being said, there's just a certain dynamic. Also, too, I think that with texting, it's very hard to get a tonality. So certain things can come off in a certain way, especially where they spell correct you or where they put the word in that they think belongs there. I've had some coworkers call me up and ask me when I do a text real quick if I had a stroke because it's so nonsensical, or it'll automatically assume a word because of my spelling that has no context in the frame of the conversation. So I have to be very careful when I text. But that's for another place, another time. Also, speech to text doesn't always come out the way you want it. So you might want to double check before you hit send. That being said, guys, I will see you all on Wednesday at 6:30. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me and let me know. Also,
Thank you, Marco.
anytime. Also, more important than anything else, get out there, talk to people. It's a beautiful day. People are out in their yards. They're starting to get ready for Halloween. They're picking up leaves. Go out and talk to people. You'd be surprised. If you don't have anything to do today, go to garage sales, go to yard sales. Find out why they're getting rid of their junk in their house. Chances are they might be thinking about cleaning it out because they're getting ready to sell it. See you guys later.
Thank you, Marco. Have a great day.
Anytime.